everyone, welcome to Handcuff Status Podcast. My name is Rue Baby. Join us on our mission to continue breaking the chains of injustice. Today, we will be discussing prison cells, what it means, and the effect caused by the criminal justice system. We have an exclusive interview with Sherri Gordon from Saskatchewan, who will be sharing her story. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Handcuff Status Podcast. My name is Rue Baby, and today we are going to be discussing prison spouse, what it means, and the effects caused by the criminal justice system. Today, I have here Sherri Gordon from Saskatchewan. She graduated from the University of Regina with a bachelor's in human justice. She is also the founder of Beyond Prison Walls Canada and is a prisoner advocate. We thank Sherri so much for coming today and for sharing her story with us. First, I'm going to give Sherri her chance to introduce herself and her reason of why she's here today to share her story.
So I'm prisoner advocate and a prison wife. I've done it for, I've been doing this for like 10 years, the prison advocacy part. But I've been with my spouse, we could say it'll be 5 years in April, but we just got married June 23rd. It was actually on his birthday this past summer. So it's pretty exciting. It's a battle. I mean, anyone who's ever tried to get married in prison, it's not an easy process, and we've been trying to do it for like 2 years. So when we came back to the prison in Saskatchewan, I guess they allowed us to do it. So we're grateful for that.
Wow, congratulations to you guys both. That is really crazy. I'm surprised to know that it was just recent too, because I'm just like, what? Like in the prisons right after COVID. So adorable. I love that for you guys. And also that you were a prisoner advocate prior to marriage. So that is another form of strength and dedication that I have to give you respect to.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The first question that I do have for you is, do you know when your husband will be released? I've been told that he is sentenced for life in prison.
Currently, he's sentenced to life, yes. So I believe his release is like sometime in 2044. He got sentenced to 25 years in 2018. We went for an appeal on that, lost that at the Saskatchewan Court of Appeal. So now we're waiting for like the Bill C-40 to come through, the David and Joyce Milgaard Act, so that we can get a ministerial review. So we fired that lawyer, hired a high-profile lawyer from Ontario in Toronto. So we have hope. I have a lot of hope that he's going to bring him home fairly soon.
Yes, I hope for you too. My goodness. How do you maintain the communication and emotional connection with your husband while he is in prison?
Well, we usually have calls like several times throughout the day, because he's at a psychiatric center currently. Sometimes lately he can go like a week without calling, and it could be for whatever reason. But I visit every weekend. So he's in Saskatoon. I'm actually in Saskatoon currently right now because I'm at my friend's place. So I travel from Regina to Saskatoon at least every weekend. Sometimes if it's permitted from work, if I have a work thing up here, I'll visit him in the evenings if I possibly can after work. But yeah, I usually am up here every weekend with him. So maintaining that communication, it's not always the easiest, but nothing stops me. The only thing that's ever stopped me from visiting on a weekend is usually COVID. When I had COVID this time last year, and I had surgery in January, and I actually told the surgeon, I was like, well, you can't give me surgery now because I leave Saturday morning for a visit with my husband. So can you just postpone it till Monday morning? And they're like, no. So nothing really stops me. Rain, shine, snow. If there's a storm, unless the highways are closed, I'll still go. If I have to drive 30 down the highway, I'm still going. So nothing really stops me.
And just to get some clarification, with visiting hours, you're able to see him at any time of the day or?
No. So they just have visiting hours, but because like most institutions, they only allow like 2 or 3 visits per week. Where he's at, it's like a hospital. So there's not as many visitors, so I sometimes can visit quite a bit more. So like yesterday I had a visit at 8:30 to 11 or 11:30, and then today it was 1 till 3:30. And then tomorrow I'll have one at 8:30 to about 11 as well. So if I'm up here sometimes during the week, like Tuesday or Wednesday evenings, I can visit from like 6:30 to 8:30. So it just they're pretty good, like because it's a hospital, they encourage that kind of communication, unlike most prisons. They'll if they know I'm passing through, they'll be like, yeah, I just have to book my visits 48 hours in advance. And they're pretty good with that.
With your husband being incarcerated and with you just recently marrying him, how do you face the stigma or the potential negative outlooks that you can get from society with you being married to someone who is incarcerated?
I really don't let them get to me. I've had people like talk so many things about me, especially because I've been in the media during COVID. I do a lot of news articles, and back when you could post news articles on Facebook, people would be like, "Oh my God," they criticize me, but I don't even care. I don't. I've learned to not really read comments that people put or care what people think. I've always kind of been that way, and I just I do it. But I share my story because I know there's so many people out there who can't do what I do. They get upset when people criticize them, and I try to share my story just hoping that other people, because I know there's a lot of prison wives even where I live. A lot of people I know, like, they're a prison wife, but they won't come out about it. They're not necessarily married, but they're with somebody in prison, and they hide it. And there's that stigma. Like me, when I first people found out I was like educated, they're like, yeah, right, like you have a degree, why would you be with somebody, you're not a meth head? And I'm like, really? Because a lot of prison wives I know are educated. They're bankers, they're teachers, I know a couple that are psychiatric nurses. I mean, incarceration happens to anybody. I mean, perfect example, my husband, his parents are pastors. So when people hear that, they're like, what? Like, how did a pastor's child get, life? And it's just happens. It can happen to anybody.
With you saying that people that, married to people who are incarcerated, do you join any type of support groups or any networks with other women with husbands that are incarcerated as well?
Well, yeah, I used to have one. I used to have my own prison wives group. It was called the Canadian Prison Wives. And I started that because when I first got into like prison life, this was before my husband. I was in a previous relationship back in like 2015. So I was like, because I studied the prison system. I worked as a student in parole with Correctional Service Canada. My partner then at the time decided he wanted to take a holiday and he went to prison. And I was like, oh, there's nothing around here, like there's nothing. And the US had all these support groups. So I created one. And, it was good. But I don't know, a few years later, a lot of these prison wives, because of my advocacy that I had to be on prison walls, they kicked me out of my own group. Yeah.
Okay,
So
wait. So was it a small group of women that came together, or did you create a huge group?
it was pretty big. Like we had about probably like 400, 500 people, I would assume at one point. But what happens, and I mean, if any of you are ever prison wives, sometimes prison wives get very catty, and I'm gonna have people are gonna hate me for this, but prison wives get very catty and they get very like aggressive with each other, especially if one's getting a PFE and the other one's not, or one's getting visits. They get very jealous, and I guess a lot of them hated on me because I had this advocacy, because I started to realize, like, okay, it's great to help women with some stuff and the skills that I know about prison, but why am I helping them when I can actually help the source of like the main problem of what incarceration is with the people inside? So I used my skills and everything I learned to try and help from parole to help men. Well, at first it was men inside. So some of these women got jealous because their men were reaching out to me. And I was like, okay, I don't want your man. Like, I have my own. I don't want your man. Because there's like, having a man in prison is not like a cup of tea most days. It's not like a walk in the park. It's a challenge. So they got upset. They talked a lot of crap about me, spread rumors about me, whatever. So and then my advocacy grew overnight. I literally started it when I was with my ex, and I was bored one night, couldn't sleep, and I just made this page, and I woke up next morning and there was like 200 people following the page. Yeah.
Was your ex by any chance incarcerated, or was he never in that world?
He was at the pen time. So that's kind of where I started that prison wife support group, was for that. And then
Yes.
blew up this page. And my prison page was kind of quiet for a while. And I'd have prison wives, and I actually helped prison wives that would talk crap about me, but then they want my help for a support letter. So I'd go help them. Then they talk shit about me again. So, but I still help them. That's just what I want. That's how I was. So eventually when they kicked me out of my group, I was like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, really? They changed the passwords and like all this and they reassigned because I had to like to admit. So whatever. So I just gave up on that. And then I just focused fully on my advocacy. And the further I got with COVID, you know, because it kind of blew up, they hated more. They talked more crap, but whatever. It is what it is. I'm not what they all thought I was. Because I have a lot of them come up to me like, oh, you know, you're not what everybody says you are. Well, no, I'm not. You know, I'm not like that. But that's kind of how that whole thing just kind of blew up. So I did have my own group. They kicked me out, and now I've just fully stayed on advocating. And since COVID, I've advocated now for females and males, so not just the males.
I appreciate that as well as a woman over here. Thank you.
You're welcome.
As well. And sometimes unjustly, not even something that they have caused or is not properly ruled in court, but that's a different discussion. Focusing back on a question that I have for you. In what ways has the experience impacted your own mental and emotional well-being? And how do you prioritize self-care?
I think my emotional mental well-being, the whole fact is like I wasn't with my husband when he got sentenced. I actually advocated for him at first, and he chased me for many years when I used to work at a high, well-known law firm in Regina. So I don't know, like my mental health, honestly, my mental health I know is kind of went down with the ion scanners when we were in Edmonton. It literally, I've been with my husband almost 5 years. It'll be 5 years in April, but I was not able to touch him until we got back here in Saskatoon. And that was last June. No, a year ago in June, sorry. So I've only been able to touch him for about a year. In Edmonton, when we had COVID for so long, and then it took in Saskpen, it took him 10 months to approve my application. Had to keep sending it in. Then he got transferred to Edmonton. So I moved to Edmonton, and well, there was still COVID, but it was like once they opened visits up, I got one visit 6 feet away from him with masks on. Then they said you could have contact visits. Nope. I kept hitting on the ion scanner. So I had to do 3 restricted visits behind glass. Then that turned out to, okay, it's the last one. I should be able to touch him. No, I hit again. I've hit for fentanyl, morphine, cocaine, crack, you name it, every drug possible. So that really affected my mental health and started to affect my relationship because we were to a point where, are we ever going to touch each other? We can't get PFEs because I can't get past the ion scanners. And it was constant. And I don't touch drugs. I've never touched drugs in my life. So we went to Grand Cache, and there too, I hit again. And that's where really my mental health started to go because he was believing that I was on drugs and I wasn't. He actually.
Next question I was going to ask you. I'm like, so are you near drugs? Why you keep.
I never was on drugs. I don't know what exactly was the reason for it.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that some people say it's because, I don't know, I was a target. As an advocate, I've become a target. But that's where it started to get. It was in Grand Cache. I was living in Edmonton, and my husband was like, well, are you on drugs? So I went actually to detox to try and get in to prove it. They looked at me and they're like, you do not look like you're on drugs. I said, I'm not, but my husband insists I'm on drugs, so I need to be here. And they checked me. I wasn't on any drugs. And then they suggested maybe you need to be somewhere else. And I'm like a psych asylum, 100%. And never went there. I think he just kind of learned. And then when I got to regional psych as well, same thing. I still had 2 restricted visits to do there. And on my last one, I hit again. It was like, I've never hit on the scanner except my last visit. So I'm like, what the fuck is this going on? So they put me in my glass visit, and then they told me to write a rebuttal. I could like counteract whatever, defend myself. So I did. Anyone who knows me knows I like to write. So I researched the ion scanners. What most people don't know about them is that they don't detect drugs. They detect anything with the same molecular structure as a drug. So they told me I hit for meth and something else. I took my detergent, my laundry detergent was Tide Pods at the time, checked its molecular structure and compared it to meth that they told me I hit on. It was the same. So I sent them a 9-page rebuttal. And then 2 weeks later or a week later, they send me a letter saying, you now have open visits. So that's where this all started. So my mental health has become lately where I'm good now, but for the longest time, it was I had to fight. And everything I got right to my PFEs, I've had to fight for. And when I say fight, I've had to write Ann Kelly. I had to write the regional director, Jason Hope. I had to write the warden. Yeah, I've been targeted for bringing in drugs. I've never brought drugs in. So it's, people look at me and they're like, oh, you fucking bitch, you get whatever you want. No, I actually don't. I fight tooth and nail to get what I want. And does it work? Yeah, but we go through so much more than anybody else. And why? Yeah, some of it is, I think, because I advocate. So I find when I'm in the media against CSC, it gets worse. Where if I shut up against them, it's a little bit better. But I haven't had to go after anything with CSC lately. So I don't know. I get my PFEs every 60 days now. So I'm happy.
It's very fortunate that you have the skills to be writing all these papers, because some family members won't be able to, create these papers, and they would potentially not be able to have access to their own family members to have that full access to see, or other husbands or other wives, for example. Not everyone can write 5-page essays.
No, this is true.
So I'm happy you won your right to see him.
Yeah, it's been a long battle. And, I get a lot of people that reach out to me. And before I used to write support letters for people. And it's not that I don't help people still in my situation. It's just I don't attach my name to it. So I will tell them what to do. Because I know a girl who got married, but she got married behind glass. It's unfortunate. And she's still trying to this day to see her husband outside of glass. And it's been, I don't know, maybe a year and a half. So I tell her what to do. I've even suggested to people doing what I do. Because when I go for a visit, I don't just walk in and go through the scanner, go through the dogs. I go in 15-20 minutes earlier with a bag. I have a Ziploc bag that I pre-wash my clothes the night before in baby wash. I put them into this Ziploc bag. I go into their bathroom and I change. And I've been doing this every visit for basically almost a year now, over a year. And they all laugh at me oh, here's the lunatic, and they're like, are you ever going to stop doing that? No, I wash my ID. I wash my money. I give it to them. I do this whole process because it's the only thing I know that hasn't made me hit. So, and if it's going to pick up money, it can pick up anything. And there's a lot of horror stories about people with those ion scanners online, even in what the OCI writes in their correctional investigator report. I never want to go back to being behind glass. So for me, if I have to, wash a load of clothes before the night before and go 20 minutes early and change and look like a lunatic, so be it. It gives me that contact, because when you have no contact, physical contact with your spouse or your loved one, it makes things really hard and it's ugly. It's really ugly time.
Thank you for sharing that. Just for the other spouses that are out there that possibly have these issues and don't know what to do, and now they're hearing your technique and your technique at that, because it's in how do you prioritize your self-care?
My self-care, I work a very stressful job. I work a 9 to 5, well, 8:30 to 4:30 job every day, so it's fairly stressful. I used to never do self-care because I used to bring my work home with me from I would work after work. Now I don't go out. I don't have much of a life. I'm old. I don't go out partying. I'm going to be 43 at the end of the year. So I really do a lot of just coming home from work and relaxing. And I sit and watch TV, I read a book, or I just whatever I can do. Usually I'm researching something. Usually actually what I'm doing is I'm sitting with the TV on in bed, relaxing while I'm reading all the current newspaper articles to see what compares to my husband's case on how I can get him out. As there's a precedent, if there's somebody do something of a crime where they actually have blood on their hands and they're getting manslaughter, then why isn't mine? Because my husband was on house arrest even though he got life sentence. He was on house arrest, never saw the body, never touched any blood, nothing. He was not there. So huge injustice. But in Saskatchewan, this is a very racist province and we have a high Indigenous population. My husband is Indigenous. It's huge discrimination. Some people will say otherwise. So that's what I do. He sometimes likes to think I do other things in my spare time, but that's what I do.
And honestly, I can understand why a case like that, with so much injustice, why you have a hard time taking a break from that and just simply relaxing in your TV. And
I do, yes. But actually, I don't even really usually watch the TV. The TV's just there while I'm reading newspaper articles. But I kind of don't really know. Honestly, I don't know what relaxing really is. I always have to be doing something. I always have to be on the go. That's just the way it is. My brain doesn't shut off until I start to fall asleep. So I'm constantly doing something.
my advice to you is always take care of yourself before you can treat others.
That's 100% true. And actually, sometimes, like when I come up here once in a while, when I do come up to Saskatoon, once in a while, usually like once a month, I will, instead of going to my friends, I'll like rent a hotel and then I go to my visit and then I just like sit in my hotel by myself. And to me, that is like so great. Actually, sometimes I'll rent one that has a jacuzzi, just sit in the jacuzzi, and it's got like a nice TV at the hotel I go to in the jacuzzi, like right above the jacuzzi. I'll just sit there. Sometimes to me, that's, usually, maybe not once a month, maybe once every couple months, I'll do that. And I come up for a Saturday visit, go to my Saturday visit, check into my hotel, stay there Saturday night, and then I go to my early morning visit and I go home. So to me, that's kind of my my downtime.
I do know that your husband is supposed to be calling you soon and
Yes.
be joining in on our conversation. Have you received any calls yet from him?
Not yet. He said 5:30, so I don't know. He told me, so I'm hoping, but I'm hoping nothing happened out there because sometimes those places can be chaos around there. But I don't know. He said 5:30, so yeah, I'm seeing it's past 5:30, so I'm hoping.
Well, I do have a question for you. What strategies do you use to foster trust and maintain loyalty in your relationship despite the physical separation?
That's something he really struggles with. It's not that he doesn't trust me. It's the whole, there's guys that also have women and their women are doing whatever, and maybe they're not as loyal. So that one guy has that, then everybody thinks their women are up to no good. I always just, I always tell him, like I'm always here when he calls. I don't think I've ever missed a phone call. Even if he calls me when I'm at work, I still answer the phone. So he has no reason like not to trust me. I don't know, like he's in a psychiatric center, so there are things that he struggles with trust, obviously, and his past relationships haven't been successful. People when he was incarcerated, because he's been incarcerated. It's not his first bit. He's been incarcerated numerous times throughout his life. So he's had relationships where they weren't faithful. So I just keep reminding him, like, I'm here. I'm at every visit, pick up every phone call. And he knows, he gets upset, but he knows that I'm not doing anything. Deep down, he knows. It's just that he hears guys, well, so-and-so's woman's out, or sometimes he'll joke and say, oh, well, your other life starts at like 9:30 when the phone's shut off in here. No, it doesn't start at 9:30. I have the same life now as I do at 9:30 when his phone's shut off. Nothing changes.
I do want to ask you if you have anything that you would like to share to the audience just before we can conclude. I was really hoping that your
I
husband.
was too. And then he told me 5:30, but I don't know, something could happen. It seems like every time we plan something pops off over there. So
It's okay. But anything you would like to add to conclude today's session, especially on the topic of prison spouse?
people like to think that just because they're in prison, they don't deserve love or they don't deserve relationships. People would be surprised as to the kind of people that I've run across that, have somebody incarcerated. I've run into social workers who come because they have a loved one incarcerated. Pastors, like my husband's parents, they go visit the prison, they're pastors. You'd be surprised. And it actually wasn't until I came to this institution that I started to see there's people in the community that actually care. Every other prison, there's not many community members. This prison, I always say, if the rest of CSC ran their prisons like a prison hospital, they don't call them prisoners here. They call them patients. If every other prison ran like that, I think there would be more, I don't know, there wouldn't be as many problems. Like these guys have so much, even there's women there too. They have so much, programming and stuff and so much support from the community that people are coming in and offering the support. There's people that volunteer for visits with them. I don't see that at any other prison that I've been to. And I think that, these people can be rehabilitated. They just need the chance. They need the opportunity. They need the skills to do it and the support to do it. And they do, my husband's come a long, long way from, he used to be somebody who was engaged in subculture and he doesn't want that anymore. He's focused. He has a plan. He knows hopefully the time is coming where he's going to come out and he wants to be a good, moral, productive citizen. I like to think that I changed a lot of who he is, but he did the hard work because he wanted to do it. I influenced him, I think, but he did it. And I see a lot of these guys that, they really try really hard. They give a gardening project out there. They do these like pet therapy programs. The community brings puppies in for them to, have that. Because a lot of these guys don't get visits. A lot of these guys have never seen a visiting room. So then these dogs come and they go for this program and they get the opportunity to have some sort of physical contact with somebody that's not a guard. Because a lot of them, the only physical contact they have is when a guard pats them down. Like, that's not human. It's not a human thing. It's demoralizing. They do really good out at the institution. I mean, I know some people say, oh, she's pro CSC now. No. I know CSC is not perfect, but at the institution I'm at, I've kind of learned to drop some of the hatred that I have, because there are good guards there. There are really good guards there. And, they always say your husband's a good convict. And I'm like, okay, really? Like, I don't like that word, but, they do see that he's a human, and they do treat these people like humans. They're like, oh, how are you doing today? They're actually friendly. So I know one person gave me crap last year because I came in and I gave them chocolates at Christmas time. And they're like, why would you do such a stupid thing like that? Like, they're miserable. Well, here they're actually not. We could be doing a long time here still. We could still have another 2 years. We could have another 5 years here. We don't know. So I give them the same respect that they give me back. If they give me respect, I give it back to them. So in a sense, they're kind of like my family. I see them every day. I see them at least 2 times a week. So I kind of have to, I don't know. I have no reason at this institution for them to hate on them for anything. They've actually helped my husband become a very good person that he's becoming right now.
Yes, we're grateful for the supports that they do put. And I am so grateful for you coming today to share your story. On behalf of Handcuff Status Podcast, we thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
We would love for you guys to see freedom and get true justice.
Absolutely. We're hoping for it. We keep praying every day. I go to church once a week, and that's exactly what we pray for. So I know it's coming. So soon.
On behalf of Handcuff Status Inc., we would like to thank Sherri Gordon for taking the time to share her story and experience of being a prison spouse. Our mission is to continue breaking the chains of injustice, to fully abolish the criminal justice system. And for those who are incarcerated, remember, freedom is a must. Free all the lifers, and shout out to Private Spaceship. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us at Handcuff Status Inc. on all major platforms. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for our next episode.